Welcome to Espresso Yourself, Mom, Teacher, and Runner Talk, the podcast where lesson plans meet lattes and long runs.
We're four women juggling the journey of motherhood, teaching personal goals, and a whole lot of caffeine.
Here, we keep it real, the messy, the meaningful, and the moments in between.
So grab your coffee and join us for honest conversations, a few laughs, and a reminder that you're not in this alone.
Welcome back to Espresso Yourself. Today, we're going to talk about some teacher confessions, things that we were not expecting in the job description, the unexpected, the funny, the hilarious things, just things we never thought we would come across as teachers. But before we do that, let's catch up on how our week has been. I know we've chatted some this week, which has been awesome, not waiting till Sunday to catch up. But it was homecoming. Last week we talked about the big moms. Katie sent us some pictures of her homecoming moms, which that was awesome to see.
So I have to say that some of my moments from the week actually have to do with this episode. Some of the things that I came across this week with my students that I did not expect is just something that you never think about. So coming from fifth grade, after being there for 8 years and moving all the way down to kindergarten, I have only 2 classroom jobs right now. One is the line leader and one is the door holder. And what I tell my students is I am watching what you're doing throughout the day, especially in line, so that I know that you are responsible enough to have one of these 2 jobs. And we switch it at the beginning of every week. So, I'm complimenting them as they walk down the hallway. I'm, looking at them and I'm saying, hey, that doesn't really look like someone who's going to be responsible enough to be a line leader or a door holder. That's a huge deal to these 5 and 6-year-olds. We were walking down the hall back from lunch one day. And I kid you not, the words, I didn't even realize these words were going to come out of my mouth, how ridiculous they sounded. I said, you cannot be the line leader if you are going to lick the wall. This girl, as sweet as can be, I mean, they're all so sweet, was walking down the hall as if she was in Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, and she's licking the wall all the way down this pretty long hallway. And before I could even think about what I was going to say, it already was out of my mouth. You cannot be the line leader if you are going to lick the wall. I feel like this is going to be one of those memories that she's going to have of kindergarten, and she might not remember anything else but Mrs. Heber's saying, don't lick the wall.
That, and I'm sure all the other kids are going to always remember that too, not just her.
I hope they do. I hope they do in a funny way because they're too young to make fun of each other for it. They're oblivious to what everyone else is doing. So that was hilarious. I thought, oh my gosh, did that just come out of my mouth?
Well, because with fifth grade, you can be a little bit more sarcastic, not quite sarcastic, but, a little bit more, you can snap back and give them a little sass when they give you sass, because I'm the same way with junior high.
Yeah. Well, and especially since we did Willy Wonka, the show at my school. So a lot of them would have understood it because they were in the show. But I was being serious. You can't be the line leader if you're going to be licking the wall. But then on the flip side, on Friday, a kid raises his hand. And this is the kid who always says, I want to go to the cafeteria. I'm like, okay. And he's like, I want to go home. But he raises his hand and very calmly says, I love you. So my only response can be, I love you too. But you also couldn't say that to a fifth grader, and a fifth grader would never say that to you. So those are the types of things that I didn't really expect coming into kindergarten. It makes sense now that I'm there, but it was strange and then also really heartwarming. Those were my 2. I guess other than that, I had to, which I am Philosophically against. I had to implement a clip chart because they need it. They need that immediate response of positive and negative consequences. And so I did it. So I'll have to report back next week because I only started it on Friday. So we only had one day of it. But I'll have to report back next week on how it's going and how it's helping with classroom management. In the 15 years that I've been teaching, I have never done it because I've been so against it. But the reality of the situation is that most of them have not been in school. There was a few who have been in VPK, our pre-K program, but they haven't been in school, so they don't really know how to act, and they're just, kind of learning as they go, which I am too. So after 29 days of school, I needed to implement it, and it won't be the whole year, but we'll see how it works. I'll report back on that.
Man, so this week, nothing really like exciting happened over here, but one of our schools did flood, a pipe burst. And y'all, when I tell you, it was like a waterfall coming out of the ceiling. And this school just went through a renovation in their front office, and it was in their front office into their cafeteria. And so, like, all of it is completely ruined, like all the stuff that they just renovated. Cause this building, let me see, I want to say this building was built 2007, 2008. So they were due for some renovations anyways, and they got the renovation done and then this flood happened. Talking to the teacher from there, we actually work out at the same gym. So we always see each other after school. And this was one of the schools that fed into my old junior high. And so I was very familiar with all the kids and everything. And we were talking and I said, "Oh my gosh, what happened? I saw the video on Facebook." And she's like telling us, and then she proceeds to tell us that they had like two other incidents. And she's like, "We've had our three." She's like, "Everything comes in threes. We've had our three. We're done." And I'm like, "Yeah, y'all are really done. Like, y'all." And so now they're having to like reroute everything. Their front office is not like workable or livable. So it's been a huge mess. And I just feel for them because I mean, imagine because it happened on a Monday. It happened on a Monday afternoon. And then the next day they had no kids on campus because they had to like clean stuff out. So that Tuesday, they said, "Kids just stay home." But the crazy thing is, I work at central office and I heard nothing. I was like, how do I not hear anything? But it must have just been one of those days where it was like nobody said anything and they just went about their day.
It's interesting because that happened to me when I taught second grade before I taught fifth grade. And on a Monday morning, I don't even know what the situation was. Maybe it was a pipe. The school that I was at, the room that I was in was like it wasn't a basement, but it was 5 or 6 stairs down, so we were a little bit underground level, so it must have rained a lot and then flooded in, but I walked in on a Monday morning, and all of my furniture was in the front lobby because I had to take it all out and dry out the carpets. I was like, "Okay, I'm not prepared for this on a Monday morning," so I can't even imagine. That was just a classroom, like, not a big deal, but an office where it's the central hub of the school, I couldn't even.
Well, and then she was telling me that all of them were in these like boots and these like water waders and like walking through. She's like, all these people came over and were walking in these water waders and boots, and they just looked. She's like, at the moment, it wasn't funny. She's like, now thinking back to it though, it is kind of funny. Like, everybody walking around in like fishing gear, trying to like wade through the water. And I'm like, yep, they're never going to forget that. The kids are never going to forget that because this happened about an hour and a half before dismissal. And so they decided, forget it. We're just sending the kids home. So if parents like car riders were there, their parents were there, send them home, send them home. And they notified the parents, hey, we're sending the kids home. They sent the kids home like a whole hour before the walkers were supposed to leave. They just said, go home. It was absolutely crazy. So I feel for them, not how you want to start your week at all.
Were they just shut down like that one day, or are they still?
Yeah, so they had him shut down just for the Tuesday, and then they had him back in class on Wednesday, and that's when I was able to talk to the teacher, and I was like, "Hey, are you okay? Like, what happened?" And from there, she's like, "Yeah, we had kids back today." Of course, the teachers still showed up on Tuesday. They just worked in different parts of the building, but they didn't want kids on campus so that they could like clean up more. But apparently, like our maintenance people were working like overnight trying to like clean up everything. I was like, "That is crazy." They, like, worked round the clock.
Most of my exciting happened over the weekend. We had 2 nights kid free because on Friday we had what's called a flex day. So it's just PD day for us. And so we don't have kids, which, so my boys go to my mom's house. Well, we had already planned on her watching them Saturday night because we were going out of town. She's like, well, I might as well just keep them both nights then. I'm like, are you sure? So she kept them both nights. So Friday, I got home, which was also weird having a drive to and from work without kids. So this is what it's like to have a peaceful, quiet moment. It was heaven. I had my husband drop them off to my mom's house in the morning. I'm going to have a quiet drive. But I got home and I convinced my husband to go on a run with me. So we got to go outside. We just drove into town and went on a run. So that was exciting because we have not just went on a run, the two of us, in forever. So he kept up and he did it with me. So that right there made my weekend, even though I was excited for everything else. But I'm like, this is like what it was like before we had kids. And then Saturday, we went up to Michigan. We went to a Max McNown concert, who is my all-time favorite singer right now. And it was just a small little venues. Everywhere in there still feels close. He put on such a great show. I love every single song of his. I know every word to every song. It was just awesome. I loved his music. And I would go again. My husband's like, these concerts are overrated, but I would go again. And my oldest really, really, really wants to go see him too. He loves his music as well. And so I FaceTimed him when he came on so that the boys could see him. And then we went to a bar right across the street after, and I stayed out way too late. It was probably 30 before we made it back to the hotel. My feet were killing me because I wore boots with heels. I don't ever wear those. I'm like, what am I thinking? I had to take them off to walk back. It was raining walking back to the hotel. But there was this couple there. There was a guy that was at the concert that we saw leave and walked in. I told my husband, that dude is from Fort Wayne. I know he is. I know he's from Fort Wayne. He looks so familiar. So when we got into this little bar, and I'm like, I'm gonna go ask him. My husband's like, don't, do not. I go, no, like I just have this feeling. So I went over. I'm like, hey, are you from Fort Wayne? He's like, yeah. I'm like, I know you somehow. And he's like, you look kind of familiar. And then his kids go to school in my district, not at my school. And we were trying to piece the things together. How do we know each other? So we looked me up on Facebook. We have two mutual friends. Well, come to find out, his daughter goes to gymnastics where my boys go and where my husband coaches. And that's how we recognized each other. I knew you looked familiar. So we ended up making friends with them, hung out with them for the night, had so much fun, which is totally out of my comfort zone. I am not one to just be social and go up to somebody, but I was also 90% sure that he was familiar. And so that was the only reason I took a chance on asking. But I'm glad I did because then if it would have been just Don and I, we would have probably stayed there for a half an hour, went back to the hotel and been in bed, which we probably should have been anyways. But we had fun and we got to do pre-kid parent things. Reality to work tomorrow, but it was fun. Much needed.
Max McGowan ended up on my like Spotify list this summer of like artists you may like. And so I got onto him this summer. So the fact that like you got to see him in concert, that's so cool. Like he just popped up and I was like, where has this guy been? Like
Yes.
he's really good. I enjoy his music.
He's so good. He's so good. I love every single song of his. I think you would like him because he's like country folk, but he doesn't sing like everything that
Hmm.
he sings is very appropriate. It's very clean. And he's religious. Like there's some songs that he's definitely like referring to, and but yeah, he's just
Yeah, then I'll have to check them out. I was gonna say that I am the type of person that will go up to strangers. So being in Florida where everyone is so transient and there's a ton of snowbirds, like it is almost snowbird season. It is almost about to get really busy here, really trafficy. But every time I see a car that has an Illinois license plate, I'm like, where are they from? I want to ask him. I want to ask him where they're from. I went up to someone in Aldi the other day because I saw them pull up with an Illinois license plate. And I was like, where are you from? Where? I want to know. And then we ended up chatting. It just was like, I just love it. I just love it. And we've met people that have been from our area, so I just think it's so fun. But I'm a very relational person. So I want to like talk to people and get to know them. And a lot of people are not that way, but I am and I want to. We went to Jersey Mike's tonight, just my older son and I. And we were ordering and one of the guys that works there was like, "I really like your voice." And I'm like, "What? Like my talking voice? I just ordered? Like, what are you talking about?" It turns out that he was at church this morning and he heard me sing and he's like, "Well, no, I really, really love when you sing on stage at church." And I like wanted to continue talking to him, but like obviously we couldn't because he's working and I was there to have dinner with my kid. But I'm like, let's continue this conversation. Like, let's go. But that can be a fault.
I'm a little bit of both. Like, I'll be like Allison, be like, "No, I'm good. I don't wanna go, like, talk to people. I'm just gonna," and then there's times where, "Oh, no. Oh, you went here," or, "Oh, you're from there," and I'll just da 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 da. So, my husband had to give me a talk today. So, I'm supposed to work at the running store next Saturday. They're short on workers and they need me to work. I said, "Yeah, no big deal." And he goes, "Kate, it is a Saturday at the running store. This is not talk to them about your life story and their life story." He's like, "This is a small talk, get them their shoes, get them out." And I was like, "But I want to," he's like, "No, no, no. You're not going to hear their running story. You're not going to hear their life story." He's like, "You're going to small talk and then send them on their way." And I was like, "Okay, fine. Like, what if I want to talk about my life story?" And he's like, "No, you don't get to talk about your running life story or their running life story. No, you put them in a shoe and you send them on their way." And I was like, "Oh, fine." So yeah, I was told I can't, pull a
In
Becky. I
your
have to,
defense in your defense, I would love to go to a store. If I was going to a store and somebody actually seemed invested in my life and carried on a conversation and seemed personable, I would much more be willing to come back to that store than feel, "Oh, they just got me shoes and out the door." So I feel like I'd be more on your page when it comes to that. And you can read the vibes of a customer. If they're not really chatting back, then all right, you're done. But if they do, then you know, okay, this is somebody who likes to talk. Well, Becky, you shared a little bit with your week, just the things that you don't expect, like licking the walls like Willy Wonka style, or the I love yous from kids, all the things that they don't teach you in college that we're not prepared for. So, we're going to kind of go over some of those things today, like managing 25 different personalities, right, in one room. It's hard enough to manage your own personality and your own self, but now I don't feel like there was one class that prepared me, like you were just talking about the behavior management of just that aspect of you're in charge of all these kids now, not just teaching them the academic part, but now you are basically a babysitter, a mom, and all these different roles wrapped into one. And if you guys feel the same way, but I just feel like our job title gets larger and larger and larger. I feel like I'm a mental health coach too. Like our role is more than just teaching them how to read and write and do math. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because in kindergarten they need everything. I mean, I also I told a student you can't keep putting your shoelaces in your mouth because I don't want to tie them. Like it just you can't it's we can't be doing these things. That's also something else that I never expected to say. Like why is this girl chewing on her shoelaces? I don't understand. But at the same time, these kids are also coming in with like a bug bite and they need something, or their wiggly tooth, or, just their runny nose, or their head hurts, or their stomach hurts, or their leg hurts, and they can't do this and they want to go home. And I'm like, but I'm just trying to teach you the ABCs and the one, two, threes here. Like, literally, that is what I am trying to teach you here. So you have to focus on what I'm doing. And my whole day is redirecting. That is my entire day, is just redirecting.
Like, how exhausted are you? Like, I remember just kind of like redirecting or doing this, and then I just get home and I just like need silence and I just don't want to talk to anyone. And I don't like, there's some days where I know I have to go lift after work. And I'm like, I don't want anyone to walk up to me. I don't want anybody to talk to me in the gym. Just leave me alone. Like, I need to like zone out and not talk to anyone because I just said about 50 million words in one day. I don't know if you feel that way. Like you have to after kindergarten. I feel like I would be so overstimulated.
That's exactly how I feel. And there's a book that I probably read in undergrad called The First 6 Weeks of School. And we just finished our first 6 weeks of school, and that's the time where you set up everything and all the expectations, and you've practiced it and all these things, and, obviously, my time there is not done because we've reached that 6-week mark, but I have been horrible this school year about planning dinners and or even wanting to cook dinner, and I have told my husband multiple times I am overstimulated. I am overwhelmed. I love everything I do. And my 18 students are sweet and cute. And I said, that's the problem. They're sweet and they're cute, but they're 18, 5 and 6 year olds. And, it just takes every ounce of me to, first of all, hold it together sometimes, but also in the same respect to have the energy that I need to do everything when I get home. And, I don't know, I didn't really get that much housework done this weekend because we were just doing stuff and like, when is it getting done? But yeah, I think I also put a reel out this week where I'm tired. I'm gonna take a nap. I was like, I can't even recreate it. You just have to go over to Instagram or something or TikTok or whatever to see it because I'm gonna take a nap. I'm gonna take a nap right here, right now. Okay, good night. And that's how I feel. There's certain things that get me energized at night, coming onto this podcast, going to my Bible study and, getting to interact socially with my teacher friends, but every day's exhausting.
For me, I don't have that moment to decompress because my kids are with me then right after school, and then they're driving home with me. I don't have 5, 10 minutes to just sit and be like, okay, no kids. I will confess there are times because they have to go sit in the office and there's a little room that they go into and they have to stay in there until I come and get them. They don't get to just go down to my room. There'll be times where I take a couple things that I want to print and I'll just go into the workroom and I'll get a couple copies and I'll just stay in there for maybe like 5, 10 minutes before I go and pick them up because I'm going to get a few minutes of quiet doing this really quick and then I'll go get them. Because I know the minute I get them, their energy level is insane. And I know it's because they've been expected to sit quiet all day long. So, of course, our kids are coming home bouncing off the wall full of energy because they're expected to sit quiet and sit still all day long. I actually, Thursday night, I was so tired. I was laughing because I was thinking about all the energy drink stuff that we were talking about. And I did not have any extra caffeine that day. And I got home, the boys went outside to play with my husband, and I rolled up in the chair, started reading my book. I fell asleep, and I think I woke up at 7:30. I was out for probably a good hour, hour and a half. That's how tired I was. Yep, yeah, and I never do that. I never get that nap time.
What about the skill of knowing who's working and who's not, but they're acting like they're working?
That took me a couple years. And maybe like because I'm only in year 11, I can still remember that like first year or two. And I just still remember like, oh my God, I have to do this. I have to make sure they're doing this and this and this. And I know like there were kids my first and second year that probably got away with Lord knows what because I was just trying to like tackle all the things and make sure okay, well, this is done. And I couldn't now, I could spot a kid from across the room. Oh yeah, they're definitely not working. But those first couple years, like it's truly a blur. I don't know if y'all like felt the same way, but yeah.
I also love when kids are sitting there, like, under the desk, like, poking at each other, doing things. Like, they don't think we can see it. I'm like, it's clear as day, like, I don't they think we're so, like, naive or something. Listen, guys, I'm a parent and a teacher. I've been doing this long enough. Like, I know what you're doing and I know what you're thinking. Oh, it's like, you don't think I can hear you? You don't think I can see you? Like, I'm up here watching all of you. Like,
It was definitely harder to do in in 5th grade for sure because when you're helping and I taught only math and science the last few years and when you're helping a student with something and everyone's working independently and you're walking around as much as you can but you're going to stop and help and then walk around and stop and help all of the rest of them are over here doodling for sure. I've caught a lot of kids doing that. But in kindergarten, it's pretty clear because their tables are really little. So I can physically see across the room. And they're not, obviously, they're not shy about it. They're shouting across the room and, excuse me, what? But it's definitely a skill that I had to like really hone in on. And even when I taught second grade for 5 years, and there was a lot of that too, because by the time they're in their third year of school, they're recognizing what they like and what they don't like, and then they try to weasel their way out of it.
I think it's just such like an interesting skill, like teachers have to like build over time. I do have to brag on my husband's boss's son. So the running shoe store owner, his son is in student teaching right now. And if you met Sammy and you saw Sammy be like, okay, like I was a little nervous for him going into teaching because he's like, y'all, he didn't choose like elementary or junior high. He's like choosing high schoolers. And Sammy is this like skinny little guy. He's not little, he's tall, but skinny guy, just real quiet. And I'm like, okay, how is he going to handle these high schoolers? Y'all, he handles them like nobody's business. Like I have been told stories about how he like does not care. He takes no mess from them, no excuses. He can catch if they're like working or not working. Like he's like all business and he means like he's serious about his teaching. And so I've just been so impressed by him because like at first Omar and I were like, "Oh my gosh, how's he going to do?" Like I don't know, but he's done such a good job. So I think this skill he like honed in on pretty fast, which is impressive.
Student teaching, end of your college career at that point. So if you don't like it, if you get in there and it's like a big flop, like, what are you going to do? Because you're already in there. If you were to jump into teaching without having that experience, because even from student teaching to having your own classroom, it is very different because you're setting up everything versus I think when you student teach, you're still in a sense like modeling off of what that teacher had set up or established. It's not necessarily your own. You still have somebody holding your hand versus, nope, you're in this room, these four walls, all by yourself now. Have fun. I will never forget like the nerves of that very first day ever teaching. I forgot to have them pick up their lunch boxes. I remember I was like, oh my gosh, because they dropped them off in these bins and we had to go pick them up after specials. And I didn't send the kids home with their lunch boxes. And I remember being told, but did they get home? Yes, they got home safely. Now that's like my motto every first day of school. Just get them home safe. And then I've never forgotten lunch boxes since.
So there's this lady, I can't remember what her name is, but her like niche on social media is these like crazy situations that parents come in with and blame the teacher for. And
Yes.
it's very satirical because it is a crazy situation, but she's making it very comical. But I'm wondering what's happening in real life here because there's got to be a lot of crazy parent situations. I've had a couple, but I'm wondering what y'all have had.
So I have quite a few, and I think it's because junior high parents are a lot bolder in what they will do. Like, I probably could write a whole novel on the interactions I've had with parents. So, my first true parent interaction that I will say scarred me for life happened my first year teaching, and it was within like the first month or two of school. And I don't think I'll ever truly forgive the admin for not protecting me in that sense because they didn't. This parent showed up with her son, and she was upset about something. And usually you're supposed to schedule a time with the teacher. The secretary just called me down and said, "Hey, can you come down here?" I came down and it was just me and the parent and the kid. And the parent took it upon herself to just start chewing me out in the front office and telling me everything I was doing wrong and how I was a terrible teacher. And y'all, I'm like 23 years old, standing here. This parent is chewing me out. Like, I'll never forget what her kid looks like. Her kid's probably an adult right now, full grown adult, because this was 11 years ago, but chewed me out. And then Finally, my mentor comes down and sees this and is like mortified. She's like, "My gosh." So she tries to get the parent to leave, finally gets the parent to leave, gets me in the principal's office. I immediately burst into tears because I was just like, "My gosh, like what did I do?" My mentor did not care how she spoke to people sometimes. But I will tell you, this woman, like, she would fight for you. She starts chewing out not only the secretary, but my principal. I was like, "How dare you not have her back? How dare you?" And just like went to town and was like, "You see her here. She's crying. You didn't have her back." And so she's like, "That parent is no longer allowed to speak to her ever again." So they ended up leaving the kid in my class, but my mentor made it a point where this parent was no longer allowed to make communication with me because of how terrible she like spoke to me and treated me in that front office. And I still like will never forget that. Um that they just didn't have my back. Nobody stopped and thought, "Hey, did you have like an appointment with her?" Or, "Hey, why don't you?" And I was still so young and naive that I didn't know, "Oh, I should probably have a principal with me or an assistant principal or somebody else in the room with me," or, "Hey, let's go into like an office." Like I literally was in the first 2 months of my teaching and I'm getting reamed by this parent. So that was like my first true parent interaction that was just a god awful nightmare.
I don't know how you stayed in teaching. Okay. I mean, I do because you're
Yeah.
too naive to leave. I hmm, that yeah, I can see how that scarred you.
I don't think I would have made it to the room to cry. I think I would have just started crying.
The crazy part is I stayed at that campus with that principal for 3 years. I stayed there way too long under his terrible leadership. I don't know how I did that for 3 years. It was crazy. Now I'm in such a better place, but, like, it was crazy I stayed there because I truly wasn't taken care of at all. Like, now knowing
Yeah.
what a good admin is and how they take care of you and protect you, I'm like, "What did I do to myself for the first 3 years?" Okay, so we've talked about crazy parents, we've talked about things that nobody tells us before we get into teaching, but what is one of the wildest classroom interruptions you've ever had?
So I'll start. When I was teaching second grade one year, all of a sudden there was a bird in the classroom. And the kids are like, "There's a bird in the corner of the classroom." And I didn't believe them. My back was to that corner. I'm like, "What are you talking about? A bird in the classroom?" Okay. Because when we open up our windows, there's screens so that critters don't get in. But there was, in fact, a bird in the classroom. I thought, how in the world did it get in? Because I'm pretty sure it was when I was teaching second grade. I don't know. I just didn't comprehend how a bird got in there. In my school here, there's plenty of geckos that get in. There's plenty of frogs that get in. There's plenty of all that stuff that just come in from the outside. But that was definitely one of those situations where how in the world do you get a bird out of your classroom? It happened so long ago. I don't even remember how we got it out. I must have called our head custodian and was like, "Get this out of here." And at that point I lost all of them and I don't even remember what we did for the rest of the day, but for all I know, I could have taken them out for an extra recess just because how are you catching a bird with 22 students in the classroom? Chaos ensues.
So I'll go ahead and tell my crazy one. I've had lots because I feel like junior high, you always have some kind of crazy interruption. But there was, I think it was one of the last years I was teaching sixth grade before I made the move up to my instructional coach role. And I was on the first floor, and where our school is on a somewhat major road, but then you have a major highway that's not too far away from our school. And so, but my room was first floor. It faced this little grassy patch. And then there was a Starbucks. And then you had the busy road out to the right. And I'm teaching, and one of my kids goes, "Miss Leon, there's a deer outside." I said, "Oh, what?" And this was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I said, I'm sorry, a what?" "There's a deer." And I walk over to the window. There is a full size deer out in this little grassy patch who somehow crossed this major road, was hanging out by the Starbucks. And so we all go to the window to watch the deer. I'm calling our officer. because I was good friends with our cop at the time. And I was like, what do you do? Like, who do we call? Do we call animal control? I don't know. Who do we call? And so we're all at the window. And then here you see our deer, Bambi, take off and starts going towards the busy road. And we're like, and I said, oh my God, are my kids going to witness like a deer getting hit on a major road? Luckily, the deer made it across the road and there was like some tree area far back. And I was like, please make it to the trees. Please make it to the trees. And so luckily it made it across. But before it made it across, it was like running around the grassy area. Like it was totally lost. I was like, oh my gosh, all these cars are going to hit it because these cars are going like 40, 50 miles an hour on this road. And this was a whole like 30 minutes. I'm on the phone with the office, like our cop, telling him what's going on. And then my principal comes by and I tell her, she's like, I'm sorry, what? I said, a deer. A deer was at my window. And she's like, because this is not like wooded area. This is like city area. And there was a deer that came up. So luckily they didn't see a deer get killed that day, but I lost him for the rest of that class before we went to the next class. I was like, well, you know what? We just watched a deer. So there's the rest of our class.
For us, it would be an alligator. Oh my gosh, there's an alligator next to our classroom. You just never know. In any sort of water in Florida, you just never know.
I
I
had
mean,
a coyote 2 years ago. And it happened right before dismissal. And I was on the second floor and I could see it. So I call my principal and she's like, why do you always find the wildlife? And I was like, sorry, I'm just letting you know. She's like, this many years ago it was a deer and now it's a coyote. And I was like, I'm just letting you know. And she's like, so I was animal lady at the school at this point. Like, just leave it to Leon. She's gonna find the animal and the animal's gonna show up at her window or her door, which yeah, so
Oh, I have not had an animal necessarily interrupt anything in my room, but I have had other teachers that have had that happen. I will say I have had some crazy things happen after school hours. There's been a couple times I don't know if it was on the weekend or I came in the evening to get some stuff done, and there was a bat in my room. And I remember having to call and be like, "Hey, there's a bat like flying around." And it was like in our building. And then it did happen one time during the school day, and it was flying around then in the cafeteria. Like we had to go not in lockdown mode, but they were trying to keep the kids confined in like their rooms to try to get this bat out of the building. So I guess that one is an animal related one. But there was a couple summers ago, it was my very first year teaching in fourth grade. And I was getting my classroom set up. So I was spending a lot of evenings, a lot of weekends in the room. And I had been working all day in my classroom. And my aunt had a surprise birthday party at the Tin Cap Stadium that night. And I'm like, oh, I'll just get ready in my classroom and then I'll go downtown. Not realizing how late it was going to go because like they did fireworks and everything. And I left all my stuff in my classroom. And I'm like, well, I need to go back and get it because I had my makeup bag and clothes and all that. So it was 10:30, 11, and my boys were both asleep in my car. And I'm like, I'm just going to run in and get it. And granted, it is like dark in the school. And I'm just like, I'm going to go in, grab my stuff. As I'm walking out, the fire alarm goes off. I was terrified. And in the meantime, we had been having issues with somebody getting into our teacher's lounge and getting pops, so windows getting opened. So in my mind, I'm like, who's in our building? Somebody's in our building. And they set the alarm off to try to like throw me off. I was so terrified. Booked it to my car. I call my husband. I'm like, the fire alarm just went off. Like, I don't know what to do. He's like, and you just left? I'm like, yeah, I didn't know what to do. He goes, well, they're going to think you did it. What if there's a fire and they're going to think you set the fire? I'm like, I don't know. So then I call my principal. I was like, I just went back into the building because I left some stuff there today and the alarm went off. So then she called the custodian and then he came in and it was like one of the vestibules, I think, because the teachers had put too much stuff there or something. And something was faulty and it like triggered it. I'm like, what are the odds that it would happen while I was there? Like, I was terrified. Yeah. I'm like, I didn't set it off. I didn't. I'm like, are we sure nobody's in the building? Yeah. I'm always leery to go in
I'd
at
be
night anyways.
we're not allowed to, but I would be terrified. Like, I couldn't do it. Not at all.
Yeah.
there was a few times where I had to go in early for coaching and they're like, "Okay, here's your code. Here's how you get in the building." And I was like, "I don't want to be the person that sets off the alarm and can't put the code in enough time to, eh, the few times I had to do it, I was terrified. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna set off the alarm and the police are gonna show up and they're gonna be like, 'Who did it?'" And me, but luckily I didn't. I was able to put in enough time. But yeah, no, that's I would have probably been screaming and done what you did, Allison, and just booked it.
I did. I just
In my last district up north, my first year, I would go in on Saturdays and Sundays all the time. And I did have the alarm code because my principal said, "You're going to want this because you're going to want to come in on the weekend." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So we had people had the alarm codes for the buildings, but here there has to be an admin in the building in order for you to come. And one time I did ask, I said, "I know it's an unpopular opinion, but I really need to come in on the weekend just for a few hours." And everyone just lives far and in opposite directions. Everyone just lives really far. And so denied. But at night, no. During the day, I'd be fine. But at night, no. And surprisingly, in the morning, I would be okay too, just not late at night. I don't know what the difference is, but yeah.
And then going off thinking about the animal thing, like in the middle of the day, like those interruptions. Have you guys ever had a student bring in an animal or anything? Because I one time had a first grader who brought in a teeny tiny little caterpillar in his backpack. I'm like, well, honey, like we're going to release that. We're going to go let him outside. And he was bawling. Like I had to have the guidance counselor come down and console. I'm like, well, what were you going to do? He had found it that morning or maybe the day before it. He had been keeping it in his backpack. Like he was going to take care of it. I'm like, he's going to die if you just keep him. Like he brought in this little fuzzy furry thing. And I'm like, we're going to release him to nature. Like he wanted to keep him as his pet and bring him to school. Like, yeah, no, he's better off in the wild. So kind of going off things that you've experienced with students and just random awkward situations. A few years ago, we were on a field trip and this was something I was not prepared for. Like, you have a first aid kit, you've got your little emergency bag that you take. Well, out of nowhere, the student comes up and was like, I lost my tooth. But it was like it looked like a grown up tooth. I was like, what? Like, that's your tooth? At school, if they lose their tooth, they get a little treasure box to put it in. I'm like, I don't know what to put this tooth in. So I had a baggie with some pads and things, like my little feminine bag for the girls in my emergency bag. So I ended up having to take those out. And I put this kid's tooth in that bag that had pads and tampons in it. I'm like, well, here's a little baggie for your tooth. Like, that's not something I would ever planned on having to be prepared for on a field trip, is losing a tooth. But hey, again, they don't prepare you for half of this stuff when you're going to be a teacher or, it's every role. We are covering every role possibly out there. If you haven't experienced it yet, you probably will, because teaching is definitely more than just academics at this point. Thanks for sipping and sharing a moment with us today. We can't wait to keep showing up with you each week. Messy, caffeinated, and real.
And if you liked what you heard, we'd be so grateful if you'd follow, subscribe, or share this with your teacher, bestie, mom group chat, or training partner, or all three. It helps more people find our little corner of chaos and connection.
And don't forget to connect with us on Instagram at Espresso Yourself Podcast. Tell us what resonated, share your own stories, what topics you want us to cover, or just come say hi.
Make sure to hit follow so you don't miss next week's episode.
Until next time,
Keep showing up.
Keep giving yourself grace.
And espresso yourself.
one sip at a time.
Cheers.